Fingers crossed, our route back to the Champions League starts today. We have a league match where we try and force our way back up into those Champions League positions. And we have our first game of this season's Europa League campaign. You know, backup plan. Let's get to the final of that again and try and win it this time. Hello and welcome to Club 6, part 11 of Non-League to Legend. I'm Kev, and coming up on today's episode, we are at home against Wolves in the Premier League and then away against Bordeaux in our first European game of the season. Since you last win, we've only played a couple of games. We played against Ipswich and Huddersfield, both in the Premier League. Not exactly tricky tasks, but then neither was Bournemouth, supposedly. We did manage to pick up wins in both of them, meaning that 3 games into the Premier League season, we are in 5th place with a game in hand, and we play that game in hand right now against Wolves. So we could, in theory, be top of the league before we head into the Europa League game against Bordeaux, which will be handy because looking at the state of the past winners of the Premier League, Man United have had a bit of an iffy start. If we can stay a point ahead of them all season, we're going to win the league. So let's stretch it out to 4 points ahead of them, because that would be utterly marvellous. And this is the team that we're going to put out there to try and do exactly that. We've got Vice in goal, a back four of Tabarez, Felipe, Alex and Suma, with Leshy and Davidson in midfield. And then Dolberg, Merson and Nelson in behind Pingu. I'm recording these episodes a couple of days in advance because I'm stocking a few up for when I go to Insomnia in about a week's time. I'm conscious of the fact, I'm trying to see the future. I'm seeing the future of the comments. And I'm hearing you all tell me that I should be playing Dolberg up front after yesterday. And now you're seeing him still play on the left wing today. And my explanation with that is thus. I expected to sell him this summer. He wanted to leave. No one offered me enough money for him. The biggest offer we got for him was about £55 million, I think. I wanted 100 million for him. He's Kasper Dolberg, a 29-year-old in his prime Kasper Dolberg. You give me £100 million or he stays on my left wing. But I've also got Salcedo, I've got Hutchings, I've got Willis. I've got plenty of options up front. I want to give Hutchings and Willis game time. So I've got to find a way to get Pingu and Dolberg into the same team. With DVD in the squad and Reece Nelson in the squad and Patrick Roberts in the squad, it makes sense to continue playing a 4-2-3-1. Tommy Merson, for example, we can't really go to a 2-striker formation to get Dolberg and Pingu in together. If we can, I'm all ears as to what that 2-striker formation might be. The obvious one I'll always go back to is the 4-3-1-2, but then it eliminates DVD and Nelson and Roberts and Salcedo and all these other players we were just talking about. We'd have to have an even bigger overhaul than we had this summer to fit those players into the team. So that doesn't seem... The sensible situation seems to be keep going with the 4-2-3-1. And if we're going to do that, if we're stuck with a 4-2-3-1 because of the squad that we've got, we now have to fit the best players of that squad into the best team that we've got available. And I just can't... I can't come up with a first 11 that doesn't have Dolberg and Pingu in it. Is the bottom line. Pingu will sometimes play out on the wing. Dolberg will sometimes play out on the wing. They'll both sometimes play in the Merson role. But ultimately, they're both going to be in the team if they're both fit. And they won't both be fit very often. We saw that last season. Right, we're 1-0 down, which is troubling. We need to get back into this game. And it's Pingu, and he probably should have scored. Because every stat apart from goals scored, we're dominating Wolves on today. Wolves, this pushes them up to 4th place in the league. Ahead of us, pushes us down to 7th place. Still 1 point ahead of Man United, which is our criteria this year. Always stay ahead of Man United. But I have to think with the first 4 games against the 4 teams that we've had, we're not going to really get an easier run of 4 games this season. If we only win 2 of them, that's troubling. But Pingu is in straight after half-time, 42 seconds into the second half. Pingu nips in from a really, I think it was a sloppy back pass rather than a through ball. And Pingu just tucks it away. This is why he's a striker. So Merson tried to play, is that Reece Nelson out there today? Tried to play him in. But the Wolves defender intercepted and just played it right into the path of Pingu. 1-1, closer to having some justice restored. We should be winning this game though. I know they've had the one clear cut chance. We've not created one yet, but every other stat, we're all over them. So I would say it's only a marginal mugging at the moment. And we are going to create some chances in this second half. And Davidson's hovering at the edge of the area, and because of the way the league table was, I didn't see Davidson. I saw the corner come across and didn't understand what was happening. But then Davidson emerged, and we need to start getting some goals out of him. It's not really something he's been particularly well known for in his career, but he is playing as our box-to-box midfielder. He's the guy who's going to push on while Leshy sits back creating stuff. So we need Davidson to make these late breaks into the area and score a few goals. I love the way he's just playing ahead of Leshy there. Plays in Nelson, back to Davidson again, to Pingu, Merson, Nelson. Look at this. This is proper. What a goal! What a goal! That was amazing. Every player we've got on the pitch who's not a defender touched the ball in that move. That went through all of them without Wolves touching the ball. That was just a thing of beauty. Utterly glorious. Now that feels like good Arsenal. You know that one of the goals of this leg of Non-League to Legends is to try and not only win something with Arsenal, but get them playing the way Arsenal always used to play when they had the likes of Bergkamp and Henry and Vieira and Pires and all these incredibly talented players. And they played the best football in the Premier League at the time. And that's the Arsenal team I want to put together. And we looked a bit like it there. That was beautiful. Right, Davidson is going to come off for Rondonina. I did try and sell both Rondonina and Benitez on the international deadline day. I mean, ours had already closed. But we've got 5 central midfielders in addition to all the attacking ones. We probably only need 4. I don't want to sell them both, but they're both unhappy at the club. So I offered them both out, and no one wanted either of them. So, brilliant stuff. We'll just make those 2 substitutions. Now get Jamie some game time. I also want to get Vitali some game time as well, but I'm reluctant to mess around with the centre-backs when we're only 1 goal ahead. And we do look a little bit weak at the back. 23 shots we've had now. This is mad. We should be about 4-0 up. Salcedo's sat there as an attacking option. Hutchings hasn't played at all yet this season, I don't think, but on the flip side of that, Salcedo hasn't played as an attacking midfielder for us for a long time, so I want to put him in that Merson role. Because I think if we're going to play Dolberg out on the wing, Salcedo might become the attacking midfielder that I wanted to sign this summer and never did. I don't know if that Correa bloke is going to be any good. We've sent Garmendia out on loan to try and get some games into him. Oh, for goodness sake, that was poor. That was really poor. Does Jack Butland save that? I know Vice on the face of it is an upgrade, but I don't remember stuff like this happening with Butland in goal. Let's just have a look at this again. I mean, that's just really poor. Really, really poor. And now we've now got to scratch around to try and find a winner in the last 5 minutes. And this isn't a situation we should be finding ourselves in today. We have dominated. I mean, talk about playing like previous Arsenal teams. We're not playing like the good one. We're playing like the one. I've not seen the current one. I'll level with you. But the one from like 2 or 3 years ago used to play brilliant football, dominate games, and not score any goals. And it feels a little bit like we're doing that. Right, Nelson. We've got like 20 seconds left. Just get the ball forward. Leshy. What's he got? I mean, pass back to our centre-back. Ridiculous. Leshy again. Try and move the ball forward. Rondonina. That's terrible. Dolberg with it. Dolberg wants it. Leshy. Rondonina. Why are we just knocking the ball around in midfield? We see glimpses of what this team could be, but we're not there yet. Right, we're going back to basics for the Bordeaux game. We've taken off all team instructions. We've gone just to standard flexible. You've seen me do this plenty of times before. Clearly we were too attacking against Wolves and trying to be too fancy. Let's just try and be less fancy. I'm also dropping Dolberg because perhaps I was wrong. Perhaps I shouldn't have the 2 of them in the team. Salcedo never really let us down last year, so he can come back in on the left wing. Pingu scored in the last game, so he can stay in up front with Dolberg breathing down his neck to try and get back into the team, which seems reasonable. Jamie also comes in at right back in my ongoing quest to get some game time into him, because I think he is the future. And I will be looking to bring on what's his name, Vitali? Is that the name of the new centre-back? Yeah. I want to bring him on during this game. Ideally, we'll be 4-0 up at half-time and I can bring him on them because I want to get some game time into him as well. Similarly, Hutchings, if we get the opportunity to get him on, he's still not touched the pitch yet this season. And for a player who was so important for us when Dolberg and Pingu were injured last year, it is a little bit harsh that he's not seen any game time at all. It shows the strength in depth that we've got. Brilliant. So Salcedo's injured already. Well, that messes up my substitution plans already. Unless I bring Hutchings on now. But I'm not going to. I'm bringing Dolberg on. He was out of the team for 11 minutes. And now he's back out on the left wing where he belongs. Goodness me. This has been a miserable week in non-league to legend. I mean, if you just look back on what's happened for you lot, it's a week. For me, it's been like 2 days. What a miserable couple of days. We've had failure to get into the Champions League, losing the FA Cup, losing the Europa League, a good transfer window, but then a terrible performance against Bournemouth, and then the disappointment against Wolves. If we don't win this game, this has been the worst week in non-league to legend history. That's not true. It's not even been the worst week in non-league to legend this year. We all remember Alfreton. Oh, that was a horrible time. Right, Merson to try and... it's lovely from Pingu. Little slide tackle, because it was a dodgy pass from Merson, but Pingu won it back and then squared it to Merson, who can't really get his header on target. But we should be 2-0 up. Merson into Nelson. Nelson crosses to... Who is that? Dolberg. Dolberg drifting in off the wing again. I tell you what, he's dangerous as an inside forward. Did that just say it's his 200th goal for Arsenal? Because that is an insane number of goals for one club, if that's what it just said. That must put him up there as all-time top scorer. I don't actually know. I mean, presumably Ian Wright or Henry? Henry, probably. But how many goals? How many goals? I need to check these Dolberg details. Probably all competitions as well, because he's just done that in the Europa League. I mean, that doesn't... It couldn't have said 200th goal in all competitions. He's not scored 200 goals in his career. Unless he always scores in other competitions. We'll see. One more goal and we bring on Vitali at the back. Or like 15 minutes and we'll bring him on anyway. We'll bring him on for... Felipe is less fit than Alex at the moment. So I guess that's the change we make. I mean, I'm not necessarily afraid of using him. So I guess we just bring him on regardless. And we'll bring him on... Yeah, we'll bring him on for... We'll bring him on for Alex, because Alex is having the poorer game. Forget about fitness. We want the guy who's in form to have the youngster alongside him. So that's his Arsenal debut taken care of. Merson trying to start a counter-attack, and it's with Reiss Nelson. We've actually got a man over. It's Merson. Dolberg supporting from the left. It does fall to Dolberg, and it's 3-0. And it's the usual suspect. Dolberg, perhaps he is an inside forward after all, because he's been playing incredibly this episode, coming in off that left wing. And Tommy Merson playing well above his star rating as usual. Proof that star ratings shouldn't be trusted, because if I was just going by star ratings, there's not a chance Tommy Merson is even in this squad. But he starts week in, week out and always performs. Tabarez to Dolberg. Davidson out to Tabarez again. Cross comes in, there's nobody there. And they try and break back at us. This is where we get to see if Vitali's any good. I think Davidson's just come in and saying, nope, we're not going to see that now, because I'm a box-to-box midfielder. There is Vitali. First touch on the ball that we've seen anyway. And David, forward to Merson. Look at the football we're playing now. When we're good, we're so very good. Merson to Pingu. We've got a man in the middle. It's Davidson and hits the crossbar. He's doing the bursting forward runs that we're looking for from him, though. We saw him intercept at the back to start that move off and then be the guy who gets on the end of the cross. I think we've got a world-class box-to-box midfielder in the making here. And I'm excited. I love a box-to-box midfielder. Right, let's make our final substitution. I did want to get Jake Hutchings into the game. So I think we'll do that regardless. Bring him on for Pingu. Do we swap those two over? We do not. We leave Dolberg out as an inside forward. And just give Hutchings 20 minutes of game time just to say, we've not forgotten about you. We remember what you did for us last season. You will get your time again this year, sir. David, what's he got? Out to Tabarez. Forward to Dolberg. We've got men in the middle. Cross comes in. It's Reiss Nelson. And it's straight at their keeper. 5 clear-cut chances now. And just the 3 goals. I mean, we've not been as clinical as we could be. But, I mean, it has been an all-round very good performance. Although possession-wise, we've only had 43% of the possession. But what we've done with it has been effective. So I guess Bordeaux had just decided to sit there and try and keep hold of the ball and not really do anything with it. Whereas we're being far more efficient with it when we've got it. 3-0. I mean, we should cruise through this group. I think Bordeaux were probably the biggest opponent that we had. I can't actually remember who else is in the group. Let's have a look. Who is in our group with us? Basak Sihir and Borisov. I don't actually know what country either of them are from. So they are Turkish. And they are Belarusian. So we've won that group already by comfortably beating Bordeaux away from home. We can play the reserves for the next 5 games, I think. Right. We'll pick that up next week. If you have enjoyed that, please make sure you leave a nice big thumbs up on there for me. Subscribe to the channel for daily Football Manager videos. And thank you very much for watching.